If tomorrow your business or career vanished from your life, would you still know who you are? I know a lot of men can't answer that. I know I couldn't some time ago. And you find yourself working 10, 11, 12 hours per day, but finding that the minute you walk through the doors of your own home, that all of a sudden you are rid of any life, completely exhausted to the core of your soul. This is not laziness, and it's also not just simply being tired from work. It's a lot deeper than that. What's been happening is you are now trapped inside of an identity crisis, being defined so much by your career, business, or family that it is beginning to quietly destroy you. And that's what I want to talk about today. The mask. What is that mask we're talking about here? It is the persona we have built to survive. It's the persona that competes, that seeks to impress those around us, who we want to impress, but at the same time, we don't also care about them. We attach our entire human worth to our career output, our grades, our bank balance. And this script, this ego, this identity that we have developed, for some time has worked very, very well. But as the years go on, that script begins to feel too restrictive and too tight. And at some point, it is going to crack. In order to understand how the script of your life has been confining you through a visual means, I'm going to describe it through the armor trap. So find the fuel that drives you in order to avoid breaking yourself down even more. And this is what's really, really important. It's so invisible to us, the ways that we have been operating for so long, trapping ourselves inside of particular roles where the soul desires to live maybe in a different way at this stage of your life. But as we ignore it, that suffocating feeling that was once liberating, that gave us power to run our business, to climb the ladder in our career, or to start our family, do all those things, is now running dry. So we need to understand what is the source. And so let's look at it this way. So this is the child you, because everything starts always 100% of the time from childhood. Of course, there are exceptions. I shouldn't say 100, but we're having a good time. So this is you. You grew up in a chaotic, unsafe, conditional, not good enough childhood. Everyone's is unique. Now, depending on what was lacking, because at every core level, every individual, every human being needs these three things. They need to know they matter, regardless of external success. They have inherent value. They want to be seen fully for who they are and then accepted for that version, not just by other people, but by themselves also. And then to have agency. Do they have agency over their own lives, or are they being trapped and stuck inside of routine and rituals that they don't really honestly want to do, but they feel they can't step out of it in risk of being casted out, shamed, and hated on? And so because of this, a child you has to do what? What do we have to do? We have to adapt. That's the only way. We're good at it. So we have to adapt to survive. And the way we do that is by creating an armor that goes over top of ourselves. This is, you can call the persona, the ego, the identity, or in other words, the illusion. This is the armor of perfection, execution, drive, nobility, patience, people-pleasing. Whatever the script is, it's the one that covers who you actually are deep down, the parts of you that want to live. There isn't one singular thing. This was really important. When someone says, be who you really are, that's a very confusing, very like self-help dialogue. And I know I'm using it. But the way I like to imagine is being who you are is oftentimes this process of evolution, of bringing forward things that have been suppressed for so long. I use the example of singing. Let's say you're someone who's always wanted to sing and be good at it and be good at the arts. But because of your environment, those were looked at as like very, let's say, feminine things that you don't want to jump into those. You'll get laughed at. And so you've had to stuff that part of your soul away. And so is who you really are a singer? No, I don't see it that way. All I see it is the soul itself wants to live. It wants to express. And if that part of you that wants to sing is being craved and your soul is saying, I want this to live, then that's a part of who you are. And maybe there's another part that wants to travel. Maybe there's another part that wants to run a business, so on and so forth. What I really want you to grasp is the idea that the soul, the core, the you that sits in the center of that armor is simply wanting to live. Now, this protects you from what? From feeling and confronting your soul. Always remember something really interesting. I've worked with a lot of people, and now that I finally opened up my school community, which is for free, by the way, with a free course on my full integration system, links down below to join. One thing I realize is the biggest thing we fear as men, we are afraid to feel. Because in order for us to step into a place where we're finally inside our own power, no longer limited by culture, cultural norms and scripts and assigned values, in order for us to travel past that, we have to experience incredible discomfort, pain, regret, shame, anger, rejection. And the amount of time we will circle around that reality just simply because we do not want to feel it. When you never take off the mask, the armor, you begin to believe that you are the persona. This will equal over time in a loss of drive, energy, meaning, color in life, etc. When I was competing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu full time, I'm 32 years old now, but when I started, I was 17. And I started competing maybe a year and a half into it. Competed all the time. And that, to me, was my form of validation to prove I had what? I had meaning, I had inherent value, that I mattered, and that people can see me, but not see me for who I am, see me for the parts that were accepted. And then agency was, I didn't really feel I had agency, but if I had concentrated on this one avenue of skill, then it gave me a level of control. Anger also gave me an element of control because it was a good fuel source at the time. Now, the longer I competed, the more this armor began to just feel like a part of me, which then does what? The armor is a confining environment. At first, it wasn't. It's never like that. At first, it's always like you got a lot of room, you feel good. There's a lot of height to gain. But as you begin to expand yourself from within with age and time, which is why I do always say those above 25 will generally begin to feel these feelings, right? It's just the season of life. But as you start to expand, that armor does not expand. It stays exactly the way it is because it's running an old script. And once you press up against it, you're going to feel that confinement and you're not able to breathe exactly the same. Things don't feel as exciting anymore because there is excess energy. All the cognitive power in your brain is being spent towards just keeping that script alive, keeping it alive, keeping it going, saying the things you've always said, doing the things you've always done. And anytime there's a part of you that wants to live and come forward, you have to suppress, squash down. So it's not a free flow of energy. It's just completely being suffocated, which drains you, which is why, more than likely, if you wake up in the morning, no matter how much sleep you get, you're always fried. So when the winds of change come into your life, that pressure becomes overwhelming and you are now kind of forced to step outside of that script. What are you to expect? You are to expect to walk the desert. In other words, I call it the messy middle. There's this idea, this notion that by stepping to who you actually are is as simple as just 2 inches in front of you. That is anything but the truth. The reality of what it takes to break out of a script that you have ran your whole life is going to require the death of not just your ego, of your identity, your persona, but it is going to destabilize your environment. So here is your old script. So through revealing yourself to yourself, asking the very difficult questions. Why did you start your business? Why are you in this particular career? Why did you get married? Really asking yourself those very difficult questions and drilling all the way down to what is that within those 3 core desires, I matter, I am seen, I have agency, which one of them were violated, and what were you needing to do to fill that void? When you get to the point where you can step out of it, which again, by the way, last plug, I just launched the school community, which goes into all of this. I got my full integration system, and weekly, I am meeting up with the guys inside of that community for group sessions. It's all for free, and it's my absolute pleasure. Click that link and join. So when you begin to walk that messy middle, what are you expected to run into? Emotions are going to be wild. You are going to be sad one day, angry the next, frustrated, regretful. You are going to be everywhere because you are stepping into something unpredictable. The script you had was at least predictable. It was something you knew. You were used to when you wake up in the morning, expect the same routine. You're going to be confused, again, because you're stepping into the unknown. The rituals that you used to do are now dead. The things you used to think about that brought particular kinds of feelings are now dead. And so you're confused. You don't know where to orient yourself. Completely normal. You're going to feel a ton of fear. People will also not understand what's going on. They're going to think you've gone crazy. They're going to think you're losing it. You're changing. Always remember not to cast out what they're saying. Try to separate the wheat from the chaff. But one thing to note is people also like things to be predictable. We all do. And when someone in their circle is beginning to go through a shift and change, the process of their soul evolving and wanting to express more, that's a lot for them. And they're not going to like it. Some will love it because it'll inspire them, but some will not. Some will see it as a reflection of their own life, and they're not at the stage yet to deal with it. But remember, this is not about them. This is not about them. And you're not being selfish by wanting this process to happen. Because you can only be a better leader, a better father, business owner, manager, executive, once you can fully bring yourself fully back to life. No wasted cognitive effort. Everything is solely focused on complete internal alignment from your soul to your heart to your head. You will become 10 times the person you are when you are versus the one who's confined inside of that script. As you traverse, this is the exploration phase. Follow the soul. What does it want? And you have to factor in that when you follow the soul, it's a sense of calmness and peace. Although this will be chaotic and although this will be hurting and maybe being stabbed and stung, but in here, I'm touching my stomach right now, you guys can't see it, but in here, your soul will feel peaceful. When you imagine leaving that script and moving towards a different North Star, it will be exciting. It will feel like an adventure. And an adventure is mixed with everything. You follow that. Soul first, your heart second, and your head third. We live our lives completely inverted. People live with their heads first, then their heart, and then sometimes with their soul, often not. If you live up here, you're trapped either in the future with paranoia, or you're going to be trapped inside of the past, repeating memories over and over and over and over again. So then as you're passing through this, follow your soul. Does it want music? Does it need to confront somebody? Have you always been biting your tongue? Do you need to put yourself first? Have you been people-pleasing too much? You're putting everyone else ahead of you. And now you're feeling you're just being left in the dust. You are abandoning your inner self. Maybe you want to start a business, but you've been in a career that's stable and predictable and you're afraid to, but you're called to this particular business. But as you traverse, it is confusing and messy, but then at some point, you are going to step into your integrated version, a part of you that you never knew lived, but it lives. It's within you. Those who are, for example, people pleasers never imagine themselves being able to actually confront and stand up to somebody or set strong boundaries. But when that timing is right, when the space is right, and when they've been given the guidance and the support by their peers, when they finally do it, it is as if it's always lived within them, because it has. And now that it lived and it manifested, they can fully integrate it now and have it be a part of their life. This is the difference between when you're doing personal development and you just stick up here, you just talk about the theoretical ideas and you feel good, sort of like mental masturbation, but it actually doesn't progress anything, versus once you understand what the picture is, what's the script of holding you tight and restricted, now it's time to step out of it, step into that unknown, break it apart, let that ego die, and then expand yourself into the newer version. And here's the reality. There is an element that you're just going to be stepping into another script, but this one will be much larger, more capable of holding and containing this new soul you have until as time goes on, you might have to evolve again. There's multiple evolutions you will go through. And I'm going to leave you with this. The only way to find real unshakable power is by crossing the bridge between who you created to survive to who you really are. Thank you very much. Down below, link to my free school community. I will see you in there.